Hi, my name's Councillor Richard Dunbar and this is Chris Aden, a community activist. We're here in Bradford today talking about the introduction of the benefit cap in Bradford. We're actually doing this film in Bradford Metropolitan Food Bank base. The food bank over the past few years has seen a dramatic rise in demand. So from whereas a few years ago we're only giving out a few hundred bags of food a month, they're now giving out over 1,000 bags a month, which tells you something very stark about the government's policy sort of direction and drive. And it's something we obviously are concerned about.
We're also going to discuss the extension of the government's benefit cap. This is going to take effect in Bradford from the 13th of January, which is next week. Can you explain what this is?
The first point to make is that this isn't a minimum or set amount that people actually get, and it actually won't affect the vast majority of benefit claimants. I think that's a really important point to make. It will affect those previously judged as most in need. And another point to make to get across to people is that it takes into account the total amount of benefit received, and any amount over the actual cap gets removed from the housing benefit. So for example, I had somebody who came into one of my advice surgeries who were very concerned about the effects this is going to have on her and her children, and basically from previously receiving the full allocation of housing benefit, this lady is now going to receive only 50 pence a week, which obviously puts pressure on her family finances.
Yeah, I mean, so just to clarify as well then, is this meaning that people get £20,000 in housing benefit in a year? Does anyone receive that?
No, nobody actually just simply receives 20k in housing benefit. I think that's a bit of a misconception peddled through certain media sources, you know.
Okay.
So I think that's total. Yeah, it's a total amount, yeah, right, of benefit, yeah.
Okay, so from what I've read, it appears to affect different groups of people differently. What are the groups and how does it affect them?
So basically, we look at people who've had a long-term illness of over 1 year. That's including those with a terminal illness. It also particularly affects families with 3 or more children in. But that's not to say, because it can also affect families with one or two children as well, in terms of seeing their housing benefit cut. And some really important statistics actually what have come out of this is that there are known to be at least 2,000 single parents with babies who will see their housing benefit cut. That's just absolutely ridiculous. But then you also look at the well-respected Chartered Institute of Housing, what also says in total they anticipate within this next round over 300,000 children will be affected by this cap. So this is something we're obviously very concerned about.
Okay, so it seems to be attacking children.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's doing, and I think that's what it doesn't actually do what it says it's going to do in essence. It's actually not attacking the intended recipients, it's going for the children. And actually, if we're going to get on in life and we're going to, tackle some of these issues of deprivation in society, we need to be supporting the children, not attacking them.
Why do you think the government are pursuing this policy?
Well, the government's mantra for the past few years is that they want to make work pay, when in reality it's doing quite the opposite of that actually. Because whereas they're talking about, we want people to get off their bums and actually go out and work, well, it's not actually doing that, because only 14% of those people who were affected are actually claiming JSA. So it's actually going against what they're proclaiming it's actually about. So what is it about? It's about ideology. It's about attacking the disadvantaged.
So you think this policy is not even achieving the government's own targets?
Absolutely, it's pure ideology this. What it's really about, it doesn't get to the root cause of the problem as they're claiming it does. What it actually does, it indiscriminately punishes unintended benefit recipients. So those people who actually are in real need of those benefits are getting attacked here. It's going against everything they say it actually does.
So in more detail, what are the flaws with this benefits cap and why is it missing the mark so spectacularly?
Well, the key point to make is that originally the intention was that the cap was going to be set at £23,000, but now we know they've put it down to £20,000. So they're saying, oh, we're automatically making £3,000 saving per sort of claimant. So but what we've got to then remember is what impact will this have on other areas such as social care demands? What impact will it have on kids who might not be getting the food they need because the families can't afford it in terms of concentrating at school? What impact will this have on access to GP services and demands and pressures on them? So that's the sort of reality of the problems what this benefit cap is going to create. And if you look here in Bradford, we've got 1,000 people, 1,000 families this is going to affect. We already have a third of children living in poverty in this district, and that's not good enough. This is going to make things worse, actually. And what we've got to say is enough now, actually. You know, we've had it where 99% of people have paid for the errors what the banking classes have made, but now what it's gone on to actually is, well, actually, you know what, we won't bother about 99%. We'll just actually attack the kids instead, those disadvantaged kids in areas like Bradford. Well, actually, no, this is pure ideology, and the government have got to realise that actually we're not going to go away, and we're going to challenge them every step of the way, because kids in Bradford, in Yorkshire and across this country deserve to get on in life, and the government are preventing them from doing that with this policy.
Okay, so assuming that this policy isn't going to be scrapped, what measures do you think should be put into place to reduce the impact on the unintended victims of this cut?
Well, I think the first thing to say is actually, as much as I'd love this policy to be scrapped, I don't think this government are going to do it. So the first thing I'd do is the terminally ill need to be exempt from this without question. The second thing is there needs to be a longer transitional period to lessen the likelihood of immediate homelessness, because that's a very real danger of this policy. And the third thing is people need to actually be given advance notice of, I'd say, of at least 3 months of what the actual figures are going to be in terms of a cut, so they have at least a bit of time to sort of work out what they might do to manage quite an awful situation.
Yeah, I think that's very good, because one of the big problems with this that I've seen is people are going to find out when the money doesn't arrive in their bank that it's been cut.
Yeah.
And that's a problem and a concern for a lot of us.
And a bigger concern exactly for those families who are struggling already to get by. So making those start choices, you know, what am I going to do with my bills this month? And if they don't know that, are they going to then, you know, fall in, not be able to pay for food one month, not be able to pay the eating bill the next month, not be able to get the kids' school uniform, for example. So
if these measures are not put into place, what are we going to see in the coming months?
So what we'll actually see is we'll get entire families pushed into homelessness, which is of course completely unacceptable. Since this government came to power 6 years ago, the funds have halved into homelessness, while actually the levels of homelessness have actually doubled. So this is going to have an even greater impact. And but then you're looking at the other stark decisions people are going to have to make. You know, is that single parent with those 3 kids, is she going to say, well, am I going to put some money on my electric meter, or am I going to feed my children? That's the reality of what's happening today. And actually, can I even afford to buy my kids' school uniform? So they're not going to go in, they're not going to be educated. The evidence and around how terrible this cap is absolutely startling to see, and I think it is a complete ideological attack on the most disadvantaged, and it definitely is not a cost saving as the government are claiming.
So sum up then, what are your thoughts about this policy?
Well, it doesn't even punish the people it's going after. It punishes their children by pushing them further into poverty.